designed to educating us on the performance of the economy via government policies and programs as well as government initiatives. I am ILE EMEJE, your host. As part of plans to achieving the renewed hope agenda of the government, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed into law the 4 new tax bills recently passed by the National Assembly. The president signing the bills into law described the new laws as imperative to the success of the administration's reforms and the country's prosperity. The bills are the Nigeria Tax Bill, Ease of Doing Business, which aims to consolidating Nigeria's fragmented tax laws into a harmonized status. The second one is the Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, which will establish a uniform legal and operational framework for tax administration across federal, state, and local government. And the third one is the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, which repeals the current Federal Inland Revenue Service Act and creates a more autonomous and performance-driven National Revenue Agency, the Nigeria Revenue Service, NRS. And the fourth one is the Jointly Revenue Board Establishment Bill, which provides for a formal governance structure to facilitating cooperation between revenue authorities and all levels of government. According to the president, the occasion presented a new lease of life to every Nigerian and future generation. Today on Business and Economy, tax practitioner and economic analyst Dr. Akintunde Ogunsola is joining me after the business news to discuss unification of tax in Nigeria as passed into law and the issues around it. Stay with us.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Our guest, the economic analyst and tax practitioner, Dr. Akintunde Ogunsola, is here in our studio to take a look at the new tax reforms in Nigeria, the issues around it, and the way forward. Doctor, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here again.
Okay, can we say at last, after all the debate and the reactions, the president has signed the tax bill into law. And now, what are the highlights of the bill?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just like you highlighted, in the intro, is 4 bills in one. 4 different bills. The first one is the Nigerian tax bill, the Nigerian tax bill is to harmonize the various tax laws that we have in Nigeria from 1957 up to date. You will recall that these Nigerian tax laws are far outdated, and in the last regime, the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, we were having Finance Act every year to amend the existing law. So this particular Nigerian tax bill is to harmonize all that and bring in some new initiative into it, so that we don't be having amendments almost every year. But I don't know whether we can even avoid amendments almost every year or every 2 years. So that's the Nigerian tax bill. Then the next one is the Nigerian tax administration bill, which was also signed. The tax administration bill is to, put a kind of regulations around tax administration in Nigeria. How will taxes be administered? Which tax authority is to collect what revenue? Which tax authority is to administer a particular type of tax? So that takes care of that. Then the third one is the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill. Now, the federal government wants to unify revenue collection, to one particular agency, revenue generating agency, instead of customs collecting, immigrations collecting, various types of revenue. So we want to have all our revenue coming into one purse and let one organization be responsible for, the accountability of, our revenue. I think apart from oil and gas, all other types of revenue will be collected by the NRS. Then the last one is the Joint Tax Board, the Joint Tax Management Board. This is the board that we want to establish that will harmonize all the, state, local government, and the federal government coming together under that umbrella to, reform taxes. Because of the separation of power that we have in the Constitution, that the federal government cannot make law for the state, the Joint Tax Board, all of them come under that umbrella, and they can agree on a particular amendment to law, and it becomes a law in the various states and local governments. So this is the idea behind these 4 bills. But apart from that, the federal government also took the advantage of these reforms to see how to exempt the poor, the very poor people, from being taxed. And from statistics, we know that the people that are poor and living below poverty in Nigeria are more than half of the population of the country. So if more than half of the population of the country is now exempted from paying taxes, then you know that it's only about 120 million people that will be paying taxes. So, or even less than that. So the government tried to exempt taxing the poor. They want to tax the rich and the prosperous businesses in the country.
There are arguments raised against some of these bills. Let's take it one by one. The first one is the Nigerian tax bill, which has to do with the harmonization or unification of the tax. And a lot of Nigerians have come up with this argument that the government is only using grammar or English to confuse us. Their argument is based on the fact that when you say that about 120 million or 80 million Nigerians that within the middle class now, within the lower class are going to be exempted from this tax, from the payment of tax. If you look at minimum wage, it's about 70,000 naira per month. I read something about the bill, and I hope what I read was correct when it stated that if you are receiving an annual income that is above either 840,000 per annum or so, you'll be exempted. But if you look at the minimum wage, if you calculate 70 times 12, we're almost getting there. So
that's 820.
820 and 840. So how realistic will this be?
Oh yes, it's actually realistic. But in that aspect, it's not even really about the grammar. This is what the last administration, President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, has already passed on May 2024. May 2022 or thereabout. They said people that are earning 30,000 naira minimum wage will be exempted from paying taxes. That was the existing rule. Though it was this administration that came and increased the minimum wage to 70,000. So I think it should also imply that if you are earning, minimum wage, you have been exempted from taxes. So they only did a calculation because of the increment they have done in the minimum wage from 30,000 to 70,000.
20,000 naira is a whole lot of, it makes a whole lot of difference.
Of course. So right from time, people earning minimum wage have been exempted from taxes. So that one is not new. It's just an improvement because our minimum wage threshold was increased from 30,000 to 70,000.
And now, let's also look at the Nigeria Tax Administration. We're talking about unification, the collection of the tax. Now, do you also think that some of the revenue generating agencies in Nigeria, I think there are about 48 to 50 something, 48, 52 agencies that are responsible to collecting revenue for the government in Nigeria. Now, it's going to be the responsibility of the Nigeria Revenue Service, that is former Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Yes.
How do you think this will not affect the morale of these other agencies that used to collect revenue? How do you think it will affect their performance?
Why should it affect their performance? Because they say you should be collecting money and you are not collecting money again, you don't want to work again.
It's like people working in the bank now. When they are working with money, people's money, they are happy as if,
as if it's their own. Whereas it's not even their own. So I think it's not supposed to affect their morale. Like the other agencies, they were just opportuned to be, revenue collecting agencies. And I think what makes them, talking about the morale, what gives them morale is probably that, okay, if you are collecting revenue for government, you have a certain percentage that you say, okay, you to use this for cost of collection and other things. So possibly all those other extra revenue will not go to them. But I don't think that should affect their morale. They also have budgets. Most of these revenue generating agencies, they have budgets. It's not as if they are, independent on their own. They have budgets, so they should, confine themselves to their budgetary allocations and everything will be fine with them. So they should just focus on, national patriotism. Let's defend our country. Let's see that our country is better. It doesn't mean if it is my brother that is collecting revenue or it is me. It is still for all of us. All of us will still enjoy it. So if we see it as a collective effort, I think it will be better.
There are 4 bills in one. And someone might just be tempted to ask this question and say, Bill, if we are not using grammar to confuse the people.
Yes, just like I said, every year the federal government passes the finance bill in the previous administration to continue to amend some sections of the tax law or to build on the sections of the tax law. So instead of passing finance act every year, they have come up to say, why don't we once and for all, let's see what we can do to harmonize all these amendments into one and see that we chart a way forward to, capturing everybody into the tax nets so that we don't lose revenue. Remember, what even brought about this was that Nigeria's revenue to GDP has been very low. It has been between 10% to 11%, which is very low. And the minimum standard is 18%. So we have been operating below the standard. It means that only about 20% or 15% of Nigerians are paying taxes, which is a problem. Tax is not meant for only some section of people to be paying tax, some don't pay. So we want to see how to expand the net and bring more persons into the net. And this is what this law actually looks at. So the federal government now say, okay, let us harmonize everything. Let's see how we can put our revenue in one purse. Let's see how we can bring the states, the federal, and the local government together so that these revenues, the Nigerians that are paying this tax will not be overtaxed, And then those that are not paying taxes, they will also come into the net so that Nigeria can have enough revenue. Now, the federal government has budgeted 52 trillion as our expenditure for the year. The question keeps coming, how do we generate this money? We want prosperity for the country, but not everybody is paying tax. So this reform, majorly, is to see that you know, the number of persons that are paying taxes should increase from 15% to at least 50%. Let's say 50% of Nigerians are, you know, poor. They are not doing well. So those ones will be exempted from tax. So, but if we can successfully increase number of persons paying tax from 15% to at least 50% of Nigerians are now paying taxes. Not that they are just paying, they are paying the accurate and commensurate tax based on their income or their profit. Then we will be seeing that Nigeria will be moving forward and our revenue will be, you know, actually increasing. So, and it's for the prosperity of the country.
Can we also look at it, the unification of the tax as a means to stemming down the corruptive practices in revenue generation in Nigeria?
Yes, these reforms also help us to reduce the level of corruption. Though they have not been able to completely tighten up all the loose holes, but with time, it's not something they can do it overnight. There are still some loopholes, yes. I don't know, maybe the president before the end of his tenure will be able to cover that. One of the loopholes is that we still have multiplicity of taxes. Those ones are spelled out in our constitution. We have about 56 types of taxes that people are paying, and this is in the constitution. If you must amend it, if you must do a bill or a reform around it, you must amend the constitution. I think that is why that aspect has been so silent. So despite all this exemption of the poor people from all these taxes, there are still small taxes that the poor still pay, like the local government taxes, the business premises, the tenement rates, a lot number of taxes on these Nigerians that are still not, they are still not living above poverty level. So is another thing. Maybe a successive government, if this administration can still amend, they can still look for a way to amend the constitution to accommodate that. But at least for now, they've been able to make a move to help the country to move a step forward by bringing this harmonization so that the states, the federal and the local government come together under the joint joint tax board to speak up, bring up their challenges, you know, that is affecting revenue generation at the various levels of government. And then at that level, at that joint tax board, they can be able to profile solutions that will affect all the states and all the local governments in the country.
Okay, again, on the difference between the old tax bill and these reforms now, what was the content in the initial bill that generated controversy from a section of the country, and how do you think this has been resolved? You know, when the tax reform was introduced, we recorded a lot of arguments and reactions from a section of the country. Now, do you think that these arguments have been resolved?
Oh yes, it has been resolved. If it was not resolved, I don't think President will sign the bill. You know, the bill led to protests, you know, end bad governance and all that.
Yeah.
And then they were saying they want to tax inheritance in the north. They were also saying that they want to increase the VAT from 7.5 to 10%. They were saying they want to introduce a new sharing formula. So you see that those ones, they've been able to harmonize, they've been able to agree. Now VAT is retained at 7.5. They don't want, Nigerians don't want increment. They also said no to changing the sharing formula. You know, they said equity is 50%. Population was, in the old sharing formula, population was 30, while derivation was 20. So population and derivation was swapped. Now derivation is now 30 and population is now 20. Okay. So that was the just little change that we saw there. So all those grievances, all those agitations, they were actually solved.
Okay. While some citizens are still arguing that they are yet to see significant infrastructural development as a result, or resulting from the collection of tax in the previous administration and before now, how do you think that this new reform will benefit the federal, the state, the local government, and even individual business people in Nigeria?
Yes. If or when this reform will start to be implemented, number one, you agree that we'll have more revenue.
For the government?
Yes.
All things
Who is the government?
All things being equal.
It's for everybody.
All things being equal.
Both the federal, state, and the local government.
Yeah.
Revenue will increase. Now, if revenue increases, we'll have, number one, we'll have money to go and settle our debts. Our debt is far increasing. We'll have enough money to be able to take care of the debt. You know, the debt is not only for state, local, it's for Nigeria.
So everybody.
So we'll be paying off the debt from our excess revenue. Secondly, the states will still have a very large share in the revenue of the federation.
Like FAC.
Yes, from the FAC share.
Yeah,
the FAC share. The states will still have more allocation to the states, so that the states can, you know, embark on various projects, the health, education, you know, basic amenity infrastructures and so on. So it's actually going to be beneficial. Now, the old tax laws does not actually work well for us. And that's why we have been crying. Yes, we know on one part that probably there is mismanagement of government fund, there is corruption, embezzlement and all that. That one is another ball game. But from statistics, we saw that, just like I emphasized, and that was what made this presidential committee on fiscal policy and tax reforms to actually look at the tax, you know, problems. The people that are paying taxes in Nigeria, they are 15% of the population, which is not correct. Now, 15% are the ones paying, yet everybody is crying, government is just taxing us, government is just taxing us. Now, if we ask those people that are shouting, government is taxing us, can you provide your tax receipts or tax clearance certificate? How many people have? Just a few percent, 15%. So, and our tax to GDP ratio has been 10. And the benchmark standard is 18%. So it means that our revenue, that's where we have revenue problem. We are not there. Nigeria can actually generate more revenue. Now, we see the rich. We see people flouting private jets. We see people flouting Rolls Royce. They are competing and all that. So that's the question.
Do they pay
so
tax?
These reforms now, that's why these reforms have come. To ensure that those rich persons that they are flaunting wealth up and down, they will begin to pay taxes now. They will be captured in the tax net, and there will be no way for them to escape. And they will be paying commensurate tax based on their level of income.
Are you sure the powers that be, the almighty powers that be, will not cover this set of people?
When we talk about law, this is law here. This is law. And in law, there is nobody that is above the law.
All things being equal.
Yes, nobody is above the law. Nobody is above the law. Look at what is happening in the US when Donald Trump was contesting. They brought about his tax issues, his tax remittances, that he has been, you know, evading taxes and all that. So nobody is above the law. If you want to contest now, we'll see how much taxes you have been paying.
But do you think that can ever happen in Nigeria?
Why can't we be pessimistic? It will happen, not that it can happen.
The powers that be are above the law.
No. Nobody is above the law in the country. And thank God for this law. Yes, you may be saying that some persons are above the law. At the end of the day, what happens is that even those that are above the law, they tend to go and negotiate with government and say, okay, I know that I'm supposed to pay 1 trillion as tax. Please, you know, I'm also creating job. Just like the one that I know of a case that happened to. The man said, if you want to collect all the plenty taxes from me, then I rather close it down, because the business is actually to help Nigerians to create job. I create job employment, I create job opportunity, business environment and so on, economic activities is happening. But if you want to now tax me to close down, then we'll see who will lose. And then the federal government is saying we are not taxing people to actually chase them away from doing business. So they go to the negotiation table and say, okay, so how much can you pay? At least they get something, a good chunk from that man that you think is above the law. You know, they get some revenue from them. So it's not about that. We will also notice that the FAC allocation share has increased. It has increased. It's not just only because subsidy was removed, but because of the floating of the naira. We saw, you know, FAC share move to 1.6 trillion. Before now, it used to be around 600, 700, 800 billion. But now we've seen FAC share move to 1.7, 1.6 trillion that is shared. So the states and the local government, they have more revenue now. So the question should be directed to the states. What are the state governments and the, you know, revenue authorities, what are they doing with the allocation that they're actually collecting?
What are they doing?
So that should be the question. So with what is happening now, everybody is going to be paying the taxes.
You know, the fears of the citizen is based on the fact that the tax unification, not just the tax unification, but like you rightly pointed at the Naira
Floating of the
Naira,
yeah,
and the other subsidy removal has brought hardship on Nigerians. How will you react to that?
Yes, it has actually happened like that, and the president did not deny that there is no hardship. He acknowledged and he said he can feel the pains of Nigerians. Subsequent addresses
how long
by the president.
So,
and he said it's just for some time. And then government is saying that if you are doing any business, if you are earning below 50 million naira, you are not going to pay anything. Per annum in a year. Some people are looking for business to even have 1 million in a year.
Some people as well as
yes, in a year. Yes, yeah. Because some persons are collecting, if you are collecting salary 70,000 in a year, how much your salary is not up to 1 million.
It's below
1 million. So if you can do a business on your own that you can make up to 1 million, they say you will not even pay taxes at all. Not even 1 million, they say up to 50 million. So it means that people that are doing business are enjoying more than people that are collecting salary. So people, the ordinary people on the street, they should look at. Now let us take advantage of this window that government has given us, that if we can start a business and then we are earning below 50 million for a whole year, that we will not pay any tax, that the money is your own. So I think Nigerians should think towards that. We are moving towards a business and SME-driven economy, and that is the path of growth of any nation, and that's what the ordinary man on the street should think of. If you are even doing agric business, that one is totally exempted. Totally exempted. If you are doing exports, you are exempted from taxes. So the ordinary Nigerian on the street now should go back and say, the only way I can take advantage of these reforms is to start doing something. Let me start one small business from the corner of my house.
So if this is true, as robust as you have mentioned, why the reaction from a lot of people? Is it a case of ignorance?
It's a case of ignorance, absolutely. Wow. It's a case of ignorance.
If a reform is there to increase
totally ignorance, and we need to continue to enlighten people. We have been saying it severally even on this program, that business is the way to go. SMEs in Nigeria, we want to increase the number of registered SMEs from about 50,000 to about 200,000. These SMEs will help to create jobs. If you start a business, you employ 1 or 2 persons. The other person start a business, employ 1 or 2 persons, and they are exempted from taxes. Our economy will grow. Poverty will reduce. So that is the window that I've seen, that, okay, this is the opportunity that these reforms has actually brought to Nigerians. And, Nigerians need to take advantage of it. We want to increase the number of SMEs from 50,000 to 200,000. What does it take to raise
streams of income and also to create more business? And we'll be right back after this break.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison, and our strength is not in our numbers.
TV channel 507, People's TV channel 285, and UHF channel 30.
Thanks so much for joining the program. In case you just tuned in, this is Business and Economy, signed into law by the President and the National Assembly. Our guest is a tax practitioner and an economic analyst, Dr. Akintunde Ogunsola. Doctor, before we went on the break, you were trying to make analysis of the benefits of the new tax reforms, and you reiterated that it will help us to create more business, to create more wealth, and also to develop streams of income. Now, the question to ask you is, how do you think we can achieve all of this? How can this be implemented by all Nigerians?
Yes,
especially the working class.
Yes, as far as you are up to 18, we have the Company and Allied Matters Act 2020. They have even liberalized it that only one person can register a company.
Yes, it's a welcome development.
You don't need to be two.
It wasn't like that.
It wasn't like that before. So only you just approach the CAC with your NIN, with your document, your name. You are up to 18. You can register your business. Yeah. Limited liability company. If you register a business name, you pay tax to the state. So it's a window for limited liability companies. Those are the ones that are exempted from paying taxes if your turnover is less than 50 million. But if you are a business name, it's different. Business name, you will be paying tax. If your income is more than 250,000 naira per month.
So we want you to emphasize on the one that we are not paying tax.
Which is company. That's the opportunity. We have to let Nigerians know the opportunities. Register a limited liability company and register also as an SME. Once you start that business, you will need to employ 1 or 2 persons. You create job. Our level of unemployment will also reduce. The more the SMEs we have, the lower our level of the unemployment rate. So if we can take advantage of this window, that the window of you will not pay tax legally, you are not going to pay tax, and they will give you tax clearance certificate
over the profit that you are going to make.
Yes, imagine you are making a profit of 10 million,
20 million, even or 30
in a year.
You are not going to pay tax.
Would you like to go and be working minimum wage?
For 70,000 naira.
So it's actually a window for Nigerians to become prosperous. It's also a window for us to tap into the wealth, the opportunities that lies in this country. It's also, let me also mention this, it's also an opportunity to reduce Japa syndrome. Okay. You don't need to Japa. People are stereotyped to carrying CV to look for job. Now government is saying that go and start a business and we will not tax you. You will be a tax-free citizen and we will give you tax clearance certificate free.
Okay.
So that is the opportunity that lies in this whole tax reforms.
Okay, away from the benefits now to the corruption aspect of it. Now, given the new tax reform, the NRS, which is the former Federal Inland Revenue Service, is going to be in charge of revenue collection. That is the law.
Yeah.
Do you think the federal government has put enough institutional framework to monitor and supervise the collection of this tax? I'm asking the question based on the fact that when people pay tax, they always want to put their eyes to ensure that this money is not embezzled or corruption is highly minimized or eradicated if it can be so. So what do you think is the institutional framework that the federal government can put in place to ensure that this money is not embezzled by the NRS?
Yes, if you are talking about embezzlement by the NRS, I can tell you that we have all the institutional framework to checkmate, the NRS, of the revenues that they will be collecting. This embezzlement is not done by NRS. Okay, let's look at the current FIRS now. Maybe they have been the one collecting the VAT and all that. Why is it that they have not? Why is it that EFCC have not catch any former FIRS chairman that he embezzled money? Because the system is actually there. People don't pay tax by cash. They pay tax through remitter, and the record is there. How much came in? Everybody will see it. How much is going out? FIRS only has limit of collecting 5% cost of collection. So total money that they collect, if it's 100,000, for example, they can only take 5% of it, which is 5,000 naira. They can't go beyond it because that is law. So if they go beyond it, they will see it, because this thing is like money enter your account, and you are now saying that the money that went out, you cannot account for it. So the embezzlement is not at NRS level. The embezzlement is at the, political level. The ministers, the presidents, it is at that level when they are now awarding contracts. When they are now saying, go and do that road of 1 million, they will say it's 7 billion. It is at that level that we are having corruption. Okay. It is at that level that we need to checkmate them. And that power has been given to the EFCC to help us to check this out. But if you are talking about the NRS, that they are giving them a lot to collect, I can tell you that NRS will not steal any money, because the system is there. If you withdraw any money more than the 5% cost of collection, and I even think the cost of collection itself, they even reduce it for NRS. It's no longer 5%. I think they reduced it to about 3% or so. There is record of how much enters every day, and in fact, it's being monitored on the screen. As you are paying your tax, they are seeing it in the office. There is a screen that is showing it. You see total collection for today as tax nationwide, because it's one source of collection, remitter. That's where everybody is paying. So as the money is dropping, everybody is seeing it. So one person cannot corner it.
It's because of the level of corruption that we have seen in the country.
So you can't see that happen at the NRS. In fact, if it will happen, maybe underground, maybe something small, you will not be hearing billions were stolen. You won't even hear that. So where the corruption is at the level of now spending that money for the citizens, that's where the corruption is. So that's where we need to look at. But talking about the NRS, I don't think the collection will not be a problem. It will be properly accounted for.
Okay, now, for the benefit of those that are yet to understand the nitty-gritty of these tax reforms, what can you tell them in specific terms? And number one, it's going to be this. Number two is this. Number three, you are going to enjoy it so as we try to round up.
Now, the key areas, just to summarize before we round up, is the VAT. This new tax reform expanded the goods and services that will be exempted from VAT. Okay. Now they have added, the ones that were there before, they were raw food items. You don't pay VAT, education, tuition fees, medical equipment, drugs, pharmacy, and all that. You don't pay taxes. Now they have added power generation, another opportunity. They have added power distribution, transmission. Those ones will be exempted from VAT. So if you are, and thank God for the Electricity Act that the President signed, it's still in force. That if you can generate light for a particular community, and you are free to collect money for that generation and be making money, and you will not pay VAT, you have now been exempted from. You can just get a big solar for a community of maybe 5 or 6 houses. You are generating and you are distributing to them, and you say every day or every month be paying so amount. Yeah. It's a good business for those that are rich, and that's why people have been saying, they have been talking to Dangote on the ground. Maybe you should go into the power sector. You should go into the power sector, so that we'll have lights in Nigeria. Okay. So they have also expanded the items for that. Then government have also increased for those that are exempted now, 50 million. So if you are above 50 million, you'll be paying 20 to 30% as company income taxes. So that's where government will be gaining back those exemptions they have given the poor people in the economy. Then thirdly is that the minimum wage earners, people that are earning very low. In fact, they even said if you are earning up to 250,000 naira per month doing business, you'll be exempted from paying taxes, because they know that in a family, they have just one person that is working or doing business and is earning 250,000. He's also like a poor man, because before he will send money to his father, send money to his mother and the younger ones, the family, the household. The